So the 2022 NFL Draft is in the books. Let's talk for a few minutes, guys, about this Philadelphia Eagles team. What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, Division Rivals? This is Stephen Hyder, Gate City Sports Channel. Sports Channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. What is going on, everybody? If you're new to the channel and you enjoyed today's discussion, if I can just ask you to do me a huge solid here, guys, hit that subscribe button. We are marching towards 10,000. We just got over 5,000 subscribers. I'd love to add you to the community. Just need you to hit that subscribe button to do that. To my OG subscribers, just going to ask you to hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button. Help me spike the algorithm. Help me get this in front of newer people, new audience members, so that way we can grow the community just a little more. All right, y'all, today's topic. The draft is in the books, so I'm going to break down a few things for you guys. If you're been around here for a while, you know I'm going to give you kind of an impartial viewpoint here. I'm not going to jump to conclusions before I see the way that the entire offseason unfolds and how we head into camp, guys. But I will stress the things that, I still think this team needs to improve upon. I don't think we filled every hole, to be quite honest, although I do think that we found a few impact players. So, as we started off this entire draft process, early on, let's say around the combine time, we had the 15th, the 16th, the 19th, the 51st, and the 83rd pick, so 5 top 100 picks. Then we had the 124th pick, 154, 162, 166, and 194. We had 10 picks. We had an arsenal of picks. And then we made the trade with the New Orleans Saints. And after the New Orleans Saints heading into draft night, we had the 15th, the 18th, the 51st, the 83rd, the 101st, the 124th, the 154th, the 162nd, the 166th, and the 237th picks in the 2022 NFL Draft. That's also 10 picks. We only used half of them, guys. We made 5 selections. If you want to count A.J. Brown as a selection, you can say that's 6, but I'm just keeping it purely to actual picks that we made, not drafts that we made to acquire talent. But I'll get into that whole aspect of how many people have been added to the roster. So, just a real quick shout out to all these new young men that are coming here that are going to be members of the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's shout out Jordan Davis, pick number 13. Cam Jurgens, center, Nebraska, pick number 51. Nakobe Dean, off-ball linebacker, UGA, pick number 83. Kyron Johnson, Sam linebacker, coming out of Kansas, pick number 181. And then tight end Grant Calcaterra, I don't know how to say his name, pick number 198, SMU. Past that, let's just talk about the totality of the moves that were made thus far in the offseason. I don't think we're done yet, guys. We added A.J. Brown through trades within this draft, right? We've traded the 18th pick and the 101st pick to acquire A.J. Brown. So A.J. Brown was added. Kaiser White was added as an off-ball linebacker. Hassan Riddick was added as an on-ball Sam linebacker. And then Zach Pascal was added as a wide receiver. So when you kind of total it all together, thus far, not counting dudes that were already on the roster that we just brought back, but like actual new fresh faces to the roster, if you will, so far there's been 9 additions. And I guess you can add a 10th if you want to put Devin Allen in that category. Devin Allen might make the roster, guys, but I don't think that that's a layup, to be honest. I mean, I would even say that you can argue that Kyron Johnson, welcome to the team, my guy. Grant Calcaterra, however you say his name, welcome to the team, my guy. Those guys still have to earn their way on. They're not going to be guaranteed anything as 6th-round picks. So, what can we say about this draft class? The first thing I want to do is I want to point out a couple of very interesting things here. We made 4 trades. We originally owned picks 15, 16, and 19. We literally didn't take a single player or make a single pick at those picks. So they looked a lot different. Just like my board looked a lot different because I moved it a lot. So, to begin with, a lot of trading, a lot of stuff like that happened. We ended up making 4 trades, ended up only taking 5 players. I think he definitely found 3 really good players early on. I really like the first 3 selections the Eagles made. Let's jump right into some of the controversial things that happened. Let's get into some of the controversial takes that happened. Pick number 51, I already know what a lot of you guys are thinking. Some of you guys are really high on this pick, and you guys love the Cam Jurgens pick. He's kind of a Jason Kelce-like type player, right? I mean, no one can beat Jason Kelce. I mean, I'm not going to put that kind of burden and expectation on the kid, but he's got decent-sized length in the arms, 33 and like a half-inch arms, which is decent reach. for a center, which you kind of look for an offensive lineman. So he's got a decent-sized reach for what he is, but he's a little underweight, right? He's hovering around that 300-pound mark. A little heavier than probably Kelsey is, but nonetheless, he's a little undersized. There would be concerns about him playing in as a guard. And I think that's why a lot of you guys have apprehension, is that, okay, center is certainly in long-term need. I haven't heard many of you guys argue with me about that. I mean, most of you guys seem to be on the same page with me, like, yeah, center was a need. It seems like a lot of you guys had a problem with us valuing center as highly as we did. But I guess the flip side argument, and I'm not saying that I agree or disagree or anything, I'm just trying to look at it the way that the front office might have looked at it, guys, is that having a long-term need at center is different from like having a long-term need at running back or tight end. Or it's a different thing, especially with the way that we play our offense. I think they see that center position as being maybe more valuable to the Eagles' scheme and system than it is to other schemes and system. So they didn't have a problem making that pick on day 2. And there were some people who did warn us that a day 2 pick on the interior offensive line was far more likely than what a lot of us probably thought. I still thought that they would probably go later. I thought they would try to find that developmental guy for a year or so. That would be later, Donovan West type, those type of players. But they weren't playing around, man. They really liked this young man's film. He's a center out of Nebraska, and they took him. I'll get into how I saw it personally. I saw it as there was a run on corners, and there wasn't too much the Eagles could do. The run on corners really started at pick 35 with Roger McCreary. So 35 went McCreary, 37 went Jalen Petrie, 39 went Kyler Good. I'm including safety and corners, guys. 42 was Booth Jr., 48 was Brisker, and 49 was Alontae Taylor. If you go back and listen to the live stream, because you guys know I was high on Alontae Taylor, I said, oh boy, when they took Alontae Taylor, I said, oh boy, there's a run on corners right now. Like, that's a bit of an overdraft, although I really love that player. I said, I don't know if the Eagles are going to be able to get a corner without overdrafting. We got to 51, and they're just, what do you want them to do, guys? I mean, Cam Taylor-Britt came off at 60. He's kind of an outside boundary corner / guy that's been talked about in some circles as moving to safety. We'll see how it works. I mean, they might try to play him out there at corner first, and then if it doesn't work, he might have that Malcolm Jenkins type, transition that happens a couple years into his career out to safety. Brian Cook, safety, went off the board at 62. Martin Emerson went off the board at 68. Corner I was also high on. 33.5-inch arm length for a corner. Big physical dude. Reminds me a little bit of James Bradbury. J.T. Woods from Baylor, safety. He came off the board at 79. 81 was Cordell Flott. And I'll give you a few guys that went kind of past pick 83, just to give you a feel for what happened. 85 was Marcus Jones. 96 was Nick Cross. 97 was safety Kirby Joseph. 109 was Kobe Bryant. 113 was my guy Percy Butler that I was really high on. 114 was Dane Belton. 115 was Damari Mathis out of Pittsburgh, kind of boundary type corner. Caleb Evans, number 118. Jalen Armour Davis, who I said was the second best scheme fit for the Eagles. He went at pick 119. 121 was Jack Jones. So those were the players that went before what we would have originally had, which we traded away 124. So I was kind of giving you that look between 51, 83, 101, 124, like who were the guys that were in that grouping. At 51, the thing I'll present to you guys is that they would have had to overdraft somebody. And I get that some of you guys might say, Steve, this is kind of complex, and I get the need for center. It's just my personal opinion that safety and overdrafting a guy like, Brian Cook would have been a better move. Or maybe some of you guys were really high on Cam Taylor-Britt to play the boundary side corner. Maybe you would have rather overdrafted Cam Taylor-Britt or Martin Emerson or Brian Cook. Those are the three guys I think you can make arguments about, right? Because you're kind of weighing what the Eagles did at 51, which was to take center Cam Jurgens, against what I think were more of the popular picks from the fan base, right? Which was Cam Taylor-Britt, Brian Cook, Martin Emerson. I've got all this written down. I've noted it. I'm going to track these guys' careers. This will be plenty of future content worthy issues here. But I'm the kind of guy that says, hey, man, you got to give these dudes a chance to play because we're making assumptions that some of these dudes are better than other dudes. I got my personal favorites just like you do, but it's an assumption until they put it on the field. Just be straightforward, guys. At pick 83, I think you get into some kind of controversial stuff here, guys, because I think a lot of us like that pick. They took Nakobe Dean. I know a lot of people said, I don't get it. It was just a pectoral strain. Like, why do they freak out? Well, I've heard a few other people talk from a few other organizations. I've listened to their press conferences, and it was more than that, guys. He actually had issues with his back, issues with his feet. He had an issue with his knee. He's a pretty big red flag for a lot of organizations in terms of the injuries. But I love the way that I heard a few guys, I think it was Kaplan and the guys for Inside the Birds. I think they kind of push back on the narrative a little bit, and I like the way they presented the information. Because from what I heard them say was basically like, yeah, but if you really look at off-ball linebackers, you're going to deal with injuries. Like, those are guys that have to take on a lot of contact every snap. And they have to go in at full speed. You know, it's not like launching off the line where, yeah, maybe you can have some issues with your knees. But, I mean, these are guys slamming into each other. So sometimes you kind of get a little, there's a little bit more nicked upness to those kind of players. So there's really never a clean medical grade normally on linebackers. I mean, it's interesting, guys. I like the pick personally. I don't know how you guys feel. I really like the Nakobe Dean pick. But I'm just laying out all the information as I have it, guys, so we can discuss it. And then, we'll have our preferences, of course, each and every way. So, there was a couple things that didn't make sense to me. We traded all these picks out. We moved up to pick 13 to go take, the big nose tackle out of Georgia, Jordan Davis, who, I mean, we'll see what happens, guys. I think he's going to be a very high floor player. I think he's a very good football player. I don't know how good of a pass rusher he's going to be. I don't know if he's ever going to develop into like a double-digit kind of sack guy, but I definitely think this dude has the upside to be disruptive, right? I mean, if he keeps his weight under control, starts learning a little bit more, and isn't seeing the same type of, attention he was getting at Georgia, because it's going to be really hard to pay that much attention to him when you got guys like Javon Hargrave and Milton Williams who can also really rush the passer from the interior. It's going to make it pretty difficult to do that. So we'll see kind of how that works, but I definitely like the fact that you got a guy like Jordan Davis, and look at the subsequent moves. Now you can really attack people with those linebackers. Now your linebackers can do a lot more with that big nose tackle up there. So we'll see how it plays out in terms of the scheme and what happens. I didn't understand some of the stuff that happened on day 3, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. We started off with pick number 154. And I got what they were trying to do. They ended up trading it to get pick 189 and 198. At least I thought I knew what they were trying to do. It's like, okay, they're trying to add 3 picks instead of only having 2 on this day. And they just don't love the talent that much at 154, I guess, to make a selection. But I will point out that Zion McCollum went at pick number 157, and Deron Bland went at pick number 167 to the Cowboys. And those are 2 cornerbacks that I think are pretty decent. I know some people are really high on Tyson Anderson. He's decent. I mean, I don't know that, to each their own. I like some other safeties a little better than him personally, but I know that he had a few supporters here. But they traded 154 out to go do that, then Zion McCollum went a few picks after that. Now, I'm going to say this. Zion McCollum is still a work in progress. That's why he lasted all the way to the 5th round, is because he's not a plug-and-play guy right from the jump. At least that's not what you're expecting. I mean, you never really know until they're on the field, but judging from the tape and the complexity and how few amount of years he has playing the position, a lot of dude with a lot of upside. But I don't know that that's an immediate starter. And I think that's the problem you get yourself into. Mike, myself, Reese, we all talked about this on the live stream. I asked him, I said, don't you think that we're kind of at the point in the draft now to where no matter what you do at cornerback, whether we take a guy at cornerback or not, you have to go get, you're either really, really confident about Tay Gallen, and you're really, really confident about Zach McPherson and a few other guys on this team. McCain, there's a few dudes, young guys out there. Or you're clearly going after a veteran to add to it, even if you take a guy. You have to at this point, I think. There's no one that you can feel that comfortable with projecting as a starter as you make up your roster unless you believe that much in Gallen and McPherson. And I don't know, guys. I have no clue how to feel about those guys. We'll find out in the next few days because over the summer, I would anticipate we're going to add a corner, whether it's through trade. And I'll shout out my guy Jalen Williams, who brought up a really good trade idea, which was, hey, what about looking to Chicago? Because new scheme, new system, they're drafting their own guys there. What about Josh Johnson, former Utah cornerback, big physical dude with the wingspan, seems to fit in a too-high safety system. He started some games the past couple of years, so he's got some experience. I actually really like that suggestion. I have no clue if there's any interest from the Eagles, guys, but I thought the suggestion was solid. Who knows what happens there? I don't know, guys. I have no clue. Then I want to get into, we traded 154 to get pick 189, and then we got impatient, moved up from 189 to pick, and gave away pick 189 and 237 for pick 181. And then we took Kyron Johnson, a Sam linebacker out of Kansas, on the ball Sam linebacker. Look, Kyron Johnson, man, I hope you ball here in Philadelphia, bro. Hey, you got my support. But I got to talk about some of the other guys that got picked. The very next pick was Darian Beavers. And then staying put at pick 189, they took Amari Barno from Virginia Tech. Like, Kyron Johnson, I hope that young man balls out here in Philadelphia, guys. I really do. I will say that it seems odd that there's 3 of these type of dudes on the board. You're sitting there within a 10-pick window, and, like, you moved up. Like, you probably would have landed one of these 3. I mean, they must really have preferred. I'm not making judgments, guys. I'm just saying they must have really preferred Kyron Johnson to Darian Beavers and Amari Barno. We'll see what happens. That's definitely something I'm going to be tracking these 3 guys. I'm definitely going to be tracking these 3 guys to see if they got it right, because it's definitely a point of interest. I'm not making a judgment, guys. Like I said, I'm not making a judgment. But it is what it is. Pick 198, they took tight end Grant Calcaterra. I don't know how you say his name. I'm very familiar with this young man. You guys remember, this is the young man that retired because of concussions. He had retired at one point because he had suffered so many concussions. And then he came back this past year in 2021 and lit it up, man. He had a really productive year, man. He was a very, very good player. Not much of a blocker. He's more of a receiving type tight end. I know we had a need at tight end too. I'm sure that they like the guy's film, and I'm sure the Eagles weren't the only one, because his name had been thrown around in circles. I'm a little skeptical because you're dealing with 3 concussions, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't say 3 concussions. I really don't know how many concussions it is in total, actually, to be quite honest, guys. But you are dealing with concussions and a concussion issue. I will say that if you're going to bet in the late rounds, you're trying to bet on athletic traits, and this guy's film showed a guy that was getting open. He seems to be faster on film than the times he was kind of putting up. I think it's the right type of move when you're in that area. You're trying to find these type of guys that, if the circumstances line up, the underlying talent's there, because you're throwing darts at the board when you get to this point in the draft. But I mean, to be quite honest, guys, Quentin Lake, safety from UCLA, I believe, he went off the board at pick 211. Darian Kendricks, corner from Georgia, former Clemson corner, came off the board at 212. Jasir Taylor came off the board at 214. Tree Castro Fields came off the board at 221. Monteric Brown came off the board at 222. So, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't know what to make of this one, guys. I mean, I still think that we could have used some corners and safeties here. I'm a little shocked that we didn't even attempt it, but I don't hate this draft at all. I think the first 3 picks were quite good. I think they did a really good job with those first 3 picks. Adding A.J. Brown, solid move, but we're clearly not done. The work's not done. We got a lot of videos coming up. We're going to talk about this stuff, guys. I want to talk about some of my favorite preferred potential free agent, undrafted rookie free agent options real quick before we jump off. All right? So these are the names of guys before I came out here to film the video. And obviously as I make that video, because I'm going to focus solely on that video, then we'll talk more. But Josh Joby, Alabama, if that guy makes it through, I think the Eagles should be looking into him. Ron McKinley III from Oregon. You just lost a guy in Rodney McLeod, who I think Ron McKinley III kind of very similar to Rodney McLeod in my opinion. They got very similar games. Carson Strong still hadn't been drafted when I came out here. You're looking for a third, upgrade over Reed Sinet as a third quarterback. The guy's got a good arm. Justin Ross was still on the board. Keep adding to the wide receiver corps, if you will, as a preferred free agent, if you will. Mario Goodrich, one of the guys that I said was a very good fit for the Eagles scheme. The opposite corner to Booth Jr. at Clemson. Mario Goodrich, I think, is a really good player. I hope he doesn't get drafted at this point. I hate to say that. Sorry, Mario, man. I know that's kind of messed up to say, but I'm just thinking for my own selfish reasons that maybe potentially add you to the Eagles as a preferred, guy. I'd like to have you here in Philadelphia. Smoke Monday. Still hadn't been drafted. Kalon Burns. He's a corner out of Baylor. He hadn't been drafted yet. Sterling Weatherford, safety. He hadn't been drafted yet. Mikel Wright, I think he played at Oregon. He hadn't been drafted yet. Isaac Taylor Stewart, big guy, long arms, huge boundary side corner from USC, Southern California, sorry. We'll see, guys. I mean, he got beat a few times, but there's some underlying athletic ability to this young man. He'd be a really good preferred kind of guy. So those names in particular kind of really interest me. There's some guys like Kellen Deesh, when I came out here, hadn't been taken yet. Zonovan Knight hadn't been taken yet. Kennedy Brooks and Abram Smith hadn't been drafted yet. Donovan West hadn't been drafted yet. I'm sure some of these dudes have come off the board now, so you don't have to comment that stuff, guys. I mean, I came out here around like pick 234, so I'm sure some of these guys are going to come off the board. I'm just saying, not everybody is. So whoever falls down, I'm going to make that video, guys, and we'll talk more. All right, guys, let me know, what do you think about this draft, guys? Leave your comments down below. Tell me what you think about the draft. Hey, man, long process, guys. There's a lot of videos coming up. I'm going to be doing some really in-depth breakdowns for you guys about the roster and scheme and things like that. So get ready. We're gonna be diving into some stuff. Obviously, we're going to be focused on these undrafted rookie free agents and finishing off the summer free agency period. But some things are coming up, guys. We got a lot of content on the horizon, y'all. I appreciate y'all's time and attention, guys. I'll see y'all later.